So let's go through creating a webinar. We already have our content in a Word document or Notepad document that includes our title. It includes the date and time, the description, categories, and so on. So in the WordPress eTrain management utility, under Webinar Press, we're going to click New Webinar. Here we're going to paste the title in. We're then going to grab the entire content of the body, copy all of this, paste that in. If we had our host name, it would go right here. I'll scroll down a little bit. The webinar URL will be generated based upon the title. If we had our webinar quiz, we could go ahead and put this in. We have a few different options for the webinar settings that we want to make sure that we get. So all of our webinars right now, we're using the replay model, and that just means that they're pre-recorded and we're leaving them as pre-recorded. The date for this one is March 23rd at 10 a.m. The time zone, this WordPress site is set to use Los Angeles time, so it's using UTC -7. If you needed to change that, you can pick a different time zone. We're also allowing registration with the link, and that's because we allow the sharing, forwarding of that link URL so that other people at one organization can actually register and watch this. If we don't need to add anything to the registration page or the confirmation page or the countdown page, you can skip all three of those. On the live page, this is where we'll actually paste the URLs for the video. So right now, eTrain is using a third-party service to host all of the video. However, if you were using YouTube or Hangouts or something like that, you could reference them directly. But for now, all of the URLs are hosted by a third-party content distribution network. So just paste that URL into the live page URL and also paste it into the replay URL. There's some other options here that you do not have to change as part of this. Then we go down to the ticket. This is a paid webinar, so we want to make sure to turn on the purchase rights for this. The description, we're just going to paste the same description in. And for the ticket title, just for convenience, we're also using the exact same title for that as well that we did on the webinar. Again, you don't have to. You can change some of this up, but that's the ticket title, the buying title, and then the price that we're setting by default as well. And then I don't have to change any of the other settings. And then I can scroll back up and click Publish. And this will actually publish the webinar portion of this. And once that publishes, you'll notice it changes that this is currently publicly available. It's published on a certain date and time, which is right now. And this button changed from publish to update in case you need to go back and make any changes. So when we actually selected to make this a paid webinar by adding the ticket information, what happens behind the scenes is a corresponding WooCommerce product was added. So we can just go to all products. And because by default, the products are displayed in the reverse chronological order, so the newest ones will be up at the top. So you can see this particular one is the one that was just created 59 seconds ago. So I can now go edit the product that was created with this particular webinar. So this by default has the same title. We're going to leave that. The same description, we can leave that, or we can change it if necessary. And then over here on the right, you can see the categories. So this is going to be a webinar. And this is under compliance and regulatory, leadership and management. And I'm just checking the boxes of our existing categories. Operations and volunteer and supervisor. So we'll go to operations and volunteer and supervisory committee. I'll scroll down on the product a little bit. We are not having a sale price. Remember that discounts are added as part of the membership in WooCommerce. If I needed to add any downloadable files or attachments, I would add them here. And then we also want to add the SKU, which was the TID in the previous system. And basically, this is just a way to tie the inventory item. So again, go to inventory, and this is SKU. And for this one, we don't have an accounting ID yet. So we're just going to make one up, and we'll just call this temporary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The SKU doesn't have any real requirements with it. It can be the actual letters and numbers, but really this is to give it a unique identifier and should match the one that you're setting up in NetForum to track that. The webinar date should already be populated. And then you can just republish by updating this product. And now we have both the webinar and the corresponding product showing up on the site. So if we just browse over to the site and then click on upcoming webinars, we should see coming up on 3/23 the Governance During Crisis webinar. So it's already available, it's live, people can register for it now. And you can see because I'm logged in and I have a PLP subscription, it's already reflecting my updated price as part of that. If you do need to make any further changes to the webinar, if it's related to the actual purchase price or what shows up on the product page, you can edit that directly in the product. If it's or if it's the downloadable files, you update those in the product as well. If you need to update the quiz URL or the webinar URL, those are both part of the webinar under Webinar Press, and you go back to webinars and you find the webinar you need to edit and make the modifications directly to that webinar.